So Arjen,
Yeah.
thank you very much for making time to give us your insights into the future of manufacturing. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own background?
Yeah, Nick, basically I was born in Amsterdam many years ago, and at the age of 3, my father, who was a printer, and my mother, who was a nurse, then literally we took us out of Holland and dumped us into Zambia, Lusaka, because obviously if you're going to immigrate from Holland, what better place than Zambia? So landed up in Zambia as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And then from Zambia, we stayed there a few years. And from Zambia, we came to Cape Town for about a year. And then my parents decided we should move to Namibia. So grew up in Windhoek, spent a whole lot of years there. And then after Windhoek, came back to Cape Town, went to University of Stellenbosch. And yeah, from there, I've been living in Cape Town all along. The nice thing, though, having family in Holland is you live in Cape Town, and then every year your parents will send you over to the Netherlands to meet your massive family of 30 people. And so what was fun was that you had Africa and you had Europe basically all bundled into one, which is great.
Right. And tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Well, you know, when I was young, I thought acting should be my thing. I thought I should become an actor. Then I realized I don't think there's a lot of money in acting. And then I went from acting into, maybe I should become going to the military. And then I realized that, you know, military is about killing people. So I thought, let me not do that then. Then I thought politics, man. I thought politics looks like quite fun. And then I got turned off that pretty quickly too. I said, you know what? I think a church minister. I like people. You know, I'm pretty spiritual. Let's do this church minister thing. And then, well, that also never happened. So I then decided, let me study industrial psychology because I like people, and then let's move into that field. You know, the HR talent field.
Yeah. And what attracted you to manufacturing?
Well, I mean, so basically, I was mostly attracted to the consulting, and obviously consulting basically pushed me into the manufacturing field. And the nice thing about manufacturing is there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of stuff happening. And if you're a consultant and you work in financial services, which I did, and then you go into manufacturing, the wonderful part of manufacturing is you literally see what you make. I mean, you see raw material turn up into a product, whether you've been in the food line or even in abattoirs. You know, you literally see something moving through. And that really is quite fun. I mean, I was standing in Dunlop in Natal, in Durban, and as they open the steam for making tires, you know, you feel that steam hit your body. And there's a real great sense of achievement when you're basically within manufacturing that you don't really get when you're working in any other industry.
Right. And tell us, Arjen, who inspired you in your early days?
Man, I must admit, it was my parents. They basically said, listen, go out there and make a difference. And through all the moving that we did, and they put us on a lot of adventure, to be honest, and they went through a lot of pain too. But the truth of the matter is my parents were my biggest inspiration. They literally said, go out there and be a difference, make a difference, and remember who you are, and remember that people are people, but you can make an impact. So they were really the people that got me going.
And tell us, Arjen, today you are consulting to some of the biggest manufacturers and mines. Can you share a couple of highlights of your consulting career?
Yeah, and listen, it's really been fun to be honest. That's one of the reasons I enjoyed consulting, is you get a diversity of industries. And I mean, the biggest highlights for me was, if I talk about 3 big manufacturing highlights, the one was Dunlop, because that was the start of me being in manufacturing as a consultant. And I was really, it was such an incredible project. I mean, we had union issues. We had, you know, how do you turn around a company that the MD said potentially might close? And so that was great from that part there. And then one of the other ones was basically PPC. PPC, I mean, we worked with them in Africa, we worked with them in South Africa, and where the cement market is right now is literally to jump in there and help them create their foundations and make them work properly. So, I mean, it's from that point of view, you know, the manufacturing was quite there. From other companies that I worked with was Truers, fashion retail, which is so different than anything else that I've ever experienced. And that was challenging because we grew up with a lot of agendas and you work like this. And in fashion retail, there's a lot of emotion involved there on how emotion impacts individuals, you know, because clothing impacts individuals. So you learn a lot about that kind of stuff. So to be honest, it really was fascinating. And on the mining side, I mean, I think the first time I went onto a mine, it was the noise and the activity and was just incredible. And our biggest, let me say, turnaround was we went in a gold mine that was 2.9 kilometers deep, and we turned it from a massive loss making into profit. And that gives you a real sense of achievement.
And tell us, Arjen, what is driving you today?
My real driver today is the passion for people. We basically are focusing on the radical changing of how supervisors and frontline leaders work. That's driving me, is how do we take the person and we change them to do their job more effectively. But when you change them, you're not just helping them do their job more effectively. Is when you give them skills and you give them competencies, is how that impacts their lives going forward, and how do you make a better life. So you're empowering people more, and that's really what's driving us. Is we literally say, if you can switch on, if you can make that frontline leader, that supervisor, really do what he's supposed to do and achieve his targets, you literally, it's not just going to benefit your company, it's going to benefit the community in general.
Now, Arjen, looking into the future, how do you see manufacturing in South Africa change in the near future?
Well, Nick, to be honest, I think manufacturing in South Africa is facing a whole lot of challenges. And I mean, I think we're going to have to step up to the plate here as manufacturers and say, okay, listen, let's take this forward. But we've got the people, we've got the thinking. I don't think we haven't got that. I think, and we've got the will. There's a whole bunch of good leaders in this country that are going to push this thing forward. But the big thing I see that we need to do within manufacturing, specifically in the future, is we must move away from the concept of mechanization into something called modernization. And let me just explain what that means. I mean, mechanization is basically automating different parts of your processes, of your machinery, maybe even throwing in some digital and getting some big data so you can do trend analysis and that. When I speak about modernization is in essence when you integrate the whole thing of digital, mechanization, robotics with new lean processes or Lean Six Sigma processes, and then integrating those with a cultural change. And it becomes basically more purpose-led. So it's not just cost per unit driven or how much runtime have I got, but it's basically how are we doing with our talent. So it's very much more encompassing of an integration of these things here. And I truly believe if you just focus on one thing, you're not going to see the whole picture. So if you say to yourself, I just want to do lean, you're missing the picture of the digital. Or if you just say to yourself, I just want to do people, you're going to miss the issue of your processes, and you're going to miss the issue of the digital environment. So for me, the whole thing here is it's a very much an integration issue with this. If you can't integrate it, you're going to miss out on the huge benefits that modernization can bring you.
And Arjen, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders in manufacturing?
I mean, Nick, the whole thing for me here is that we got to learn that people matter. To be honest, I only really sort of fundamentally believe in this in about 2010. It's quite funny because I studied industrial psychology and then I moved into operational consulting. And for me, the issues really were productivity, and OEE was the be all and end all of everything. There was nothing else apart from that. But from about 2010 onwards, I started realizing that efficiency without engagement is unsustainable. And engagement you can only get through your people. I mean, so the whole thing here is I've learned is that you need to involve the people and get them emotionally owned into your business. The emotional ownership of your people is immensely important to ensure that the business carries on strongly and with a good foundation. I'm not saying the other stuff is not going to help building towards it, but I have seen where people have digitized and mechanized and the benefits have literally fallen flat because they weren't able to take their workforce on the journey on creating that ownership. So I think the real importance of what we're doing over here is that people matter. I had a discussion with a client of mine about a week ago, and he literally told me how the workforce had sabotaged one of their big programs through all kinds of obstacles by acting like this and doing these things, all subtle, but it actually sabotaged a huge program that they wanted to do. And I'm saying basically, you don't want that sabotage. You want them to go forward. And it wasn't in your face kind of union activity. It was subtle and was underhanded. And so I'm saying the thing I've learned here is if you don't take your people with you, you're going to find you're going to struggle really making things happen.
That's very interesting. And Arjen, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have encountered in your own manufacturing and consulting career?
Yeah, one of the things you start seeing is you become shop blind. You literally, you don't see the problems anymore because you become so used to the problems that the problems become the norm. And that's one of the things is to always challenge yourself to say, how can I do things better? To go out to other industries, to look at cross industry, to say, well, what can I learn from mining in my manufacturing? Or what can I learn from this industry? It's very important that you start challenging yourself and saying, can I do it better? Can't I do it better? Because shop blind basically means you accept the norm, you accept that it's being normal. The other thing I learned is not one thing is the solution. There is no silver bullet when you're trying to change things or make things better. It's a lot of hard work, and success comes with combining a lot of things that needs to be put in place and to persist with it. So what I know, we love to have simple answers to complex questions, but the truth of the matter is manufacturing is a seriously complex business. You have inputs and outputs. You've got to take raw material, you've got to change it, you've got to have quality control, you've got to ensure if you're in a continuous process environment, you've got to have all these things in place. And it isn't just the switch of the button. It isn't just implementing an IT system or a new leadership development talent pool. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. And you've got to make sure that you bring it all together. Those are big challenges that if you miss them, you can flounder.
And Arjen, if you were to put together a curriculum for future manufacturing leaders, what are some of the new skills that you would want to factor in?
I mean, to be honest, there's two skills that I really focus on, and there's just one statement that I'll make. And the one skill is influencing. You need to be able to influence people. I mean, if you want to be a leader and you don't know how to influence people, if you don't know how to motivate people to move forward or to get to see the new vision, then it's going to be a struggle implementing how you see things. And you need to take people with you. So influencing is definitely, and influencing sometimes means patience. If you want to influence people and you want to take them on a long journey, you need to have the patience that comes with taking people along, because people can be difficult. They don't always understand. The other thing is resilience. It's a tough industry. I mean, I'm involved in the cement industry at the moment now, and and we were involved in the poultry industry. It's tough industries. I mean, you're getting hammered by all kinds of things like high rand and dumping and all kind of things there. So you need resilience. You need to be tough. You need to be tough on what's happening on the external factors, and you need to be tough on what's happening inside. When you're being challenged in your own operations by processes, by unions, you gotta have resilience. You gotta stick it out. And the other thing is, don't take things personally. I sometimes find people bundle up who they are with what they do. And sometimes people criticize the business, and then you take it as a personal criticism. And what you need to learn is, you need to learn that if someone's criticizing the business, it's not that they don't like you or they don't think you're competent. It's that they're looking at something and they're coming up with something and saying, listen, can we do something better? So don't take things personal. Remove yourself from the business. You and the business are not one. The business is the business and you are you. So when something says something about the business or the operations or where you're working, don't take it personal. Look at it, listen to it, and then see what you must do about it.
And Arjen, when it comes to social media, what is your advice for future leaders in manufacturing? How should they handle and navigate social media to build their own leadership brands?
Yeah, Nick, I truly believe for building up a brand, if you want to be a future leader in manufacturing, I truly believe that the most powerful platform we have at the moment is LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn has the ability to connect you to not only people in your own industry, but cross industries. It can give you global perspective. But if you want to be noticed, you're going to have to start, giving input into LinkedIn. You're going to have to look at articles or write some posts there, and also be interested in what other people are saying, is to read their stuff, to connect with them. I think LinkedIn can do a world of good for you as an individual, if you use it correctly. Now, I mean, I've looked at things like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, but the truth of the matter there is in some of our environments, I mean, Instagram wouldn't really work. Facebook might be nicer to show, but to build your real brand as a serious future manufacturing leader, LinkedIn is for me the perfect opportunity there. But then you must use it correctly and you must be active. It doesn't help if you come on once every month. And I was once challenged by my marketing manager last year. He said to me, are you on LinkedIn? I said, I've been on LinkedIn for years. He says, well, I would never have noticed because I hardly see you on there. And that gave me a bit of a fright. So, yeah. So now I'm a bit more active on LinkedIn.
Right. And tell us, Arjen, we are going through the corona crisis. How do you believe the coronavirus will change the local manufacturing landscape?
So, I mean, Nick, there are real fears with the coronavirus. I mean, we are talking about a pandemic. I mean, we're moving into level 3 now. And it's one of those things where we can't ignore the fears of the coronavirus. We can't ignore the fears of our workers and our workforce. And we need to look at that. And I think the fundamental radical difference will be a change of focus on how we see safety. I think we are going to become very much more tight on the whole safety concept. We're going to have things like where some companies used to have fatigue centers. We're now going to have kind of like if you feel you're sick or something, we're going to have your isolation centers and quarantine areas. So safety is going to become uppermost in our mind. And with safety comes a whole lot of other things. There is in essence, the standards are going to become radically improved, but it's going to start impacting our people. We're going to start looking at how do we use shifts? How do we use teams? How do you do social distancing in a canteen? How do we motivate people? I mean, so how do we really get to grips with this? And what you're having right now is some companies are basically working with different color teams. So blue team comes in the 1 week, red team comes in the other week. So how do you engage them with your culture? how do you ensure that they're still focused on the vision and the values of your company? And the one thing there is that, again, it's left up to the very important cog in the wheel, and that's your frontline leader, your supervisor. Is he suddenly becomes the person that's going to have to carry your message, because you might not be able to see them. You might not be able to get them all together in a group. So from that point of view, it's a very much more focused on safety and focus on how do you carry your culture in a remote environment if you're not there, and how do you basically empower your people to carry on.
Now, Arjen, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
So Nick, as a consultant, we basically work with a lot of leaders in manufacturing, and one of our biggest success stories was we were sent to a cement plant in Zimbabwe, and what happened there was they were building a whole new plant in Harare, and they had a plant in Bulawayo, and they had their quarry in Collinborn, which was about 2 hours drive out there. And we were basically given the challenge is, listen, we need to basically standardize our processes. We need to have one culture. We need to move guys across from Bulawayo and Collinborn into Harare. And we need this operational readiness plant to be on time, within budget. And, when you say switch on, it's on. And it was incredible what happened there was we sat with their leaders there, and it was like they were sponges sucking in everything that we said. And the thing which was such a pleasure for us is they changed their culture, they redid their structures, they made their plant efficient in Bulawayo, they made their quarry way more efficient, and they actually had a very successful startup on the plant in Harare. It started on time, it was within budget, and the great thing there was that everyone knew their role, everyone knew what the vision and the mission of the place was, everyone was emotionally involved there, their productivity was high, and the turnover of that business in Zimbabwe increased by over 40% after that was implemented. So it was really, really, really exciting to sit with the executive team of that country and just see how they took things and how they made it happen. We were blown away by it.
And Arjen, can you tell us who are the role models of leadership that you would recommend future manufacturing leaders should study and maybe learn from?
Nick, most people are going to try and go for some international guy or someone that's, high profile. And I'm going for a local guy because I worked with him. And in South Africa, if you can get hold of him, and if everyone's listening is able to find him on LinkedIn or maybe to shoot him an email. But to be honest, I'm going to go for Nomjombo Lekula. He's the PPC MD of South Africa. He was the PPC MD of Africa before. And what a man. And why I said is, and I like role models to be someone you can touch and feel and have interaction with. So he's not out there, he's literally here. The man is technically sound. I mean, he understands cement. It's in his blood. He understands where it was and where it's going to. I mean, he's passionate about changing their world. He is driven and focused, and he is so loyal to his people and the company. He sees, I mean, the current hardships that they're going through. He sees basically how they're going to get out of it. He's an absolute future thinker. He knows what latest technology should happen. He knows how the people should work going forward. And I tell you what, he is also a guy that makes things happen. And he's not just someone that thinks and sits in the background and says, this and that. He actually makes things happen. And so my basic role model in future manufacturing would be Nomjombo Lekula.
So, Arjen, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and mostly on LinkedIn. And obviously we have a website. I mean, we are part of OAM Consulting. So you can go to www.oamconsulting.com and you can basically connect with me there or via LinkedIn.
And last but not least, Arjen, is there one piece of advice that you would like to convey to future manufacturing leaders that they should implement in their own leadership?
I was, you know, there's a few things that I would say is firstly, you need to have a clear vision of who you are. You need to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. You fundamentally need to know who you are. And you need to get your foundation right. I believe that if you want to move into leadership, you need to have the right foundations. You need to technically understand what you're doing, whichever part of the business you're in. You need to have a sound foundation on what you're working on. That's very important. And the other thing is, and I reiterate it again, you need to bring people along with you. You need to be able to take people with your journey, to make them see that your journey is best for them, that your journey is exciting and it's moving them in the right direction. Because if you have a vision, but no one can buy into your vision, then in essence, you're going to have a pretty dead vision. So yeah, get the people to join you.
Well, Arjen, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of manufacturing and reminding us that people matter most.
Yes. Thank you, Nick.